My name is Ella, and I am 34 years old living in the beautiful, but often cold city of Chicago, Illinois. I have always been the kind of person who believes that if you work hard and keep your head down, you will eventually get what you deserve in life. For the longest time, I thought that meant getting a promotion and a nice corner office overlooking the Chicago River. But I quickly learned that the world does not always work that way, especially when there are people who are willing to climb over your back to get to the top. I work in a high-pressure marketing firm called Sterling and Stone, which is located right in the heart of the Loop. The building is one of those tall glass towers that makes you feel like you are part of something huge and important every time you walk through the revolving doors. I have been with the company for nearly 7 years, and I know every single detail of how our biggest clients operate. I started as a junior associate and worked my way up to a senior project manager through sheer grit and a lot of late nights, fueled by black coffee and cold pizza. My life was my work, and I was proud of that. I lived in a modest but comfortable apartment in Lincoln Park and spent most of my weekends catching up on emails or preparing for Monday morning meetings. I was happy, or at least I thought I was happy, until Marcus entered the picture. Marcus was hired about a year ago as the new director of innovation, which was a title that basically meant he was supposed to come up with big ideas while the rest of us did the actual work. From the moment he walked into the office with his $3,000 suits and his perfectly whitened teeth, I knew he was trouble. He had this way of talking that made everything sound like a revolution, even if he was just talking about changing the font on a slide deck. He was charming in a way that felt oily, like he was constantly trying to sell you something you did not need. At first, I tried to be professional and welcoming because that is just who I am. I offered to show him the ropes and explain the history of our longest-standing accounts, like the Miller Group, which is a massive real estate conglomerate that accounts for 30% of our annual revenue. Marcus just smiled at me with that fake grin and told me he had it all under control. He started calling me sweetheart and kiddo in meetings, even though we are nearly the same age. It was incredibly demeaning, but I chose to ignore it because I did not want to be the woman who complained about personality clashes. I figured my work would speak for itself. For 6 months, I worked on the most important project of my career, which was the rebranding strategy for the Miller Group. This was a massive undertaking that involved market research and creative design and a total overhaul of their digital presence. I stayed at the office until midnight almost every night for 3 months. I missed my sister's birthday party, and I missed my best friend's engagement dinner because I was so focused on making this perfect. I created a 400-page strategy guide that I knew would secure our contract with the Miller Group for another decade. I was the one who did the interviews, and the one who analyzed the data, and the one who wrote every single word of the final presentation. When the day of the big presentation finally arrived, I was nervous but excited. This was going to be my moment to shine and finally get that promotion to vice president that I had been dreaming about. I walked into the conference room with my laptop ready to go, but Marcus was already there. He was standing at the head of the table, talking to the chief executive officer and the representatives from the Miller Group. He looked at me and told me that there had been a change of plans. He said that he would be handling the presentation today because the board of directors wanted to see a fresh face from the leadership team. I was stunned, and I told him that I was the one who wrote the entire strategy and that I should be the one to present it. Marcus just laughed and patted me on the shoulder in front of everyone. He told me to go grab some more water for the guests and to take a seat in the back so I could learn how the big players close a deal. I felt the blood rush to my face, and I wanted to scream, but I did not want to make a scene in front of our biggest client. I sat in the back of the room and watched in horror as Marcus opened my file and began to present my work as if it were his own. He did not mention my name a single time. He used the word I instead of we throughout the entire 2-hour meeting. He took credit for the innovative data models I had built and the creative slogans I had stayed up all night writing. The clients were blown away, and the chief executive officer was beaming with pride. At the end of the meeting, the head of the Miller Group stood up and shook Marcus's hand and told him it was the most impressive presentation he had seen in 20 years. A week later, Marcus was promoted to senior vice president, and I was given a $500 gift card to a local steakhouse as a thank you for my support on the project. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I realized that being the hard worker who stayed quiet was never going to get me anywhere in a place that rewarded thieves and liars like Marcus. I decided that I was not going to quit, but I was going to make sure that Marcus's rise to the top was as short-lived as possible. I began to watch him closely, and I noticed that he was not just a credit thief, but he was also incredibly lazy and arrogant. He stopped doing any real work at all and started delegating everything to me and the other junior associates, while he spent his afternoons playing golf or having long lunches on the company dime. He became even more condescending and started making comments about how I was lucky to have a job at all after the restructuring. He even went so far as to put me on a performance improvement plan, which is basically a formal warning that you are about to be fired. He claimed that my attention to detail had slipped and that I was not being a team player. It was a blatant lie designed to push me out so I would not be around to remind everyone who actually did the work. I felt like I was at the lowest point of my life. I was being pushed out of the company I had helped build, and my reputation was being tarnished by a man who could not even format a basic spreadsheet. I spent a few nights crying in my apartment and wondering what I had done wrong, but then I remembered that I knew things Marcus did not know. I knew the skeletons in the closet of this industry, and I knew exactly how Marcus operated. I started digging into the company records and the expense reports that Marcus had been filing since his promotion. Because I was still a senior project manager, I had access to the internal accounting system for my specific department. I discovered that Marcus had been inflating the costs of our outside vendors and pocketing the difference through a shell company he had set up in his brother's name. It was a classic kickback scheme, but he was being incredibly sloppy about it because he thought he was untouchable. He was billing the company for high-end printing services that were actually being done by a cheap shop down the street, and the extra thousands of dollars were disappearing into his private accounts. This was not just a fireable offense, it was a criminal one. I could have gone to Human Resources right then, but I knew that the director of Human Resources was a close friend of Marcus. If I went to them, they would likely just warn him and help him cover his tracks while firing me on the spot. I needed to be smarter, and I needed to wait for the perfect moment to strike. I spent the next month acting like the perfect defeated employee. I stayed late and did all the grunt work Marcus assigned to me, and I never complained. I even apologized to him for my poor performance and promised to do better, which made him even more arrogant. He really thought he had broken me. The opportunity I was waiting for came during the annual shareholder meeting, which is the biggest event of the year for Sterling and Stone. All the major investors and the entire board of directors would be in attendance at a luxury hotel in the Gold Coast neighborhood. Marcus was scheduled to give the keynote address about the future of the company and the success of the Miller Group project. He had asked me to prepare the presentation for him because he was too busy with his social calendar to do it himself. I told him I would be happy to help and that I would make sure it was the most memorable presentation of his life. I spent 2 weeks building a beautiful slide deck that looked perfect on the surface. It had all the right charts and all the right buzzwords, but I also embedded a series of hidden files and scripts that would trigger at a specific time. I also made sure to include the actual invoices from the printing company and the paper trail of his shell company disguised as background images and metadata within the file. On the day of the shareholder meeting, the ballroom was packed with people in expensive suits and jewelry. The air was thick with the smell of expensive perfume and nervous energy. Marcus was backstage looking at himself in the mirror and adjusting his tie. He looked at me and told me to make sure the slides transitioned perfectly and not to mess this up for him. I just smiled and told him that everything was ready to go. As he walked out onto the stage to thunderous applause, I took my seat at the technician's table in the back of the room. I had my own laptop plugged into the main system. Marcus started his speech, and he was as charismatic as ever. He talked about integrity and innovation and how he had personally led the Miller Group project to success. About 10 minutes into his speech, I hit the key on my laptop that activated the script I had written. Suddenly, the screen behind Marcus flickered. The beautiful charts disappeared and were replaced by a split screen. On one side was the presentation he thought he was giving, and on the other side was a clear and easy-to-read breakdown of his fraudulent expense reports. The room went dead silent as the names of his shell company and the mismatched invoices began to scroll across the screen in giant red letters. Marcus did not realize what was happening at first because he was facing the audience and he kept talking about how honesty was the core value of our firm. The audience started whispering, and then the chief executive officer stood up from the front row with a look of pure rage on his face. He pointed at the screen and shouted for Marcus to stop. Marcus turned around, and his face went from tan to a ghostly white in a matter of seconds. He tried to laugh it off and said it must be a prank or a technical glitch, but I had programmed the slides to play a recorded audio clip I had captured on my phone a week prior. It was a recording of Marcus talking to his brother on the phone in his office, where he explicitly discussed how they were going to split the money from the next Miller Group invoice. His voice boomed through the high-quality speakers of the ballroom for everyone to hear. It was unmistakable. Marcus looked like he was going to faint. He looked toward the back of the room and found me sitting there. I did not look away, and I did not look scared. I just gave him a small nod and a smile. Security was called immediately, and Marcus was escorted off the stage and out of the building in front of all the most powerful people in the industry. The chief executive officer had to take the stage and apologize for the disruption and promised a full internal investigation. But the damage to Marcus was done. He was ruined. In the weeks that followed, the investigation revealed the full extent of his theft. Not only was he fired, but the company filed a lawsuit against him, and the district attorney's office started looking into criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement. Because I was the one who had uncovered the evidence, the board of directors looked into my history with the company. They found all the original files for the Miller Group project and realized that I had been the one doing the work all along. The chief executive officer called me into his office and apologized personally for overlooking my contributions. He told me that Marcus had manipulated everyone and that he was grateful I had the courage to bring the truth to light. I was promoted to the position Marcus had stolen and given a significant raise and a bonus for my loyalty. But the best part was not the money or the title. The best part happened a few months later. I was walking down Michigan Avenue on a cold Saturday afternoon when I saw a man shivering in a thin jacket trying to hail a taxi that would not stop for him. It was Marcus. He looked like he had aged 10 years. His expensive suits were gone, and he looked tired and broken. He saw me, and for a moment our eyes met. He looked like he wanted to say something, but he just looked down at the ground in shame. I did not feel bad for him at all. I just adjusted my scarf and kept walking toward the lake. I realized then that revenge is not just about hurting the person who hurt you, but it is about taking back the power they tried to take from you. I had my life back, and I had my career back, and I knew that I would never let anyone treat me like that again. The Chicago wind felt cold against my face, but for the first time in a long time, I felt warm inside. I had learned that you do not have to be a loud and arrogant person to win in this world. You just have to be smart and patient and willing to stand up for yourself when it matters most. My new office has a perfect view of the skyline, and every morning when I sit down at my desk, I think about how far I have come. I still work hard, and I still stay late sometimes, but now it is because I want to, and because I know that my work is truly mine. The Miller Group is still our biggest client, and they specifically asked that I be the lead on all their future projects. I have a team of people working under me now, and I make sure to give them credit for every single thing they do. I never want to be a Marcus, and I never want anyone to feel the way I felt in that conference room. My life in Chicago is good, and I am proud of the woman I have become. I learned that sometimes you have to play a little dirty to clean up a mess, but in the end, the truth always has a way of coming out if you give it a little push. I still have that $500 steakhouse gift card in my desk drawer. I never used it because I wanted to keep it. As a reminder of the moment, I decided to stop being a victim. Maybe one day I will use it to celebrate another promotion, but for now it sits there as a trophy of a battle won. The city of Chicago is full of stories of people trying to make it big, but my story is about making it right. And that is a story I am happy to tell over and over again. As the snow begins to fall over the city, I know that I am exactly where I am supposed to be, and that feels better than any title or paycheck ever could. I have found my voice and I have found my strength, and I know that whatever challenges come next, I will be ready for them. Because I know who I am and what I am capable of doing when someone tries to take what belongs to me. The lesson I learned is that you should never underestimate the person who stays quiet and does the work, because they are the ones who know exactly where all the secrets are buried, and they are the ones who will be standing when everyone else has fallen. I look out at the gray waters of Lake Michigan, and I feel a sense of peace that I never thought possible. Marcus thought he could erase me, but all he did was show me how to be the hero of my own story. And in the end, that is the best revenge of all because I am thriving, while he is just a memory that people at the office laugh about when they talk about the man who thought he was smarter than everyone else. I am Ella, and I am a survivor of the corporate jungle, and I have the scars and the success to prove it. The city keeps moving, and so do I, and I am looking forward to every single day that comes next because I know I earned it, and I know I deserve it, and no one can ever take that away from me again. It is funny how life works out sometimes, because if Marcus had never tried to steal my work, I might still be that quiet girl in the back of the room, waiting for someone to notice me. He forced me to become the leader I am today, and for that I suppose I should almost thank him, but I think I will just stick to enjoying my view and my success while he deals with the consequences of his own choices. That is the way the world should work, and in my corner of Chicago, that is exactly how it ended up. I am finally at home in my own life, and that is the greatest feeling in the world. I remember the exact smell of the conference room on that day. The coffee was slightly burnt, and the air conditioning was humming loudly. It was a sensory experience that is etched into my brain forever because it was the day I changed. I am 34, and I have many more years ahead of me to build something even bigger and better than what I have now. I am not afraid of the future anymore because I know I have the tools to handle anything that comes my way. I have my friends and my family, and a career that I love, and a sense of self-respect that is unbreakable. Chicago can be a tough city, but it is also a city that rewards those who do not give up, and I am living proof of that every single day I walk into Sterling and Stone and see my name on the door of my office. It is a good life, and it is a life I built with my own two hands and a little bit of petty revenge that I still feel very good about. The story of my life is just beginning, and I am the one holding the pen now, and I plan on making every chapter count. I think back to the long nights and the frustration and the tears, and I realize they were all just part of the process of becoming who I am. I am grateful for the struggle because it made the victory that much sweeter, and it made me realize that I am much stronger than I ever gave myself credit for being. So here I am in the city I love, doing the work I love, and knowing that I am the one in control of my destiny, and that is a powerful thing to know. I watch the sun set over the skyscrapers, and I feel a deep sense of gratitude for everything that happened, because it led me here to this moment of perfect clarity and satisfaction. I am Ella, and I am exactly who I want to be. The end of one story is just the beginning of another, and I cannot wait to see what happens next in this big, beautiful city that I call home. I have learned that the best way to live is to be kind, but to also be a person who will not be pushed around, and that is a balance I have finally found. I am happy, and I am successful, and I am free from the shadow of people like Marcus, and that is all I ever really wanted. The sounds of the city are like music to me now, and I listen to them with a smile on my face, because I know I am a part of the rhythm of this place, and I am never going to let anyone stop me from dancing to my own beat. I have my coffee and my view and my work, and that is more than enough for me. I am content and I am proud, and I am ready for whatever the next day brings because I know I can handle it with grace and with strength and maybe just a little bit of that Chicago grit that has served me so well. My journey has been long and it has been hard, but I would not change a single thing about it because it made me the woman I am today, and that woman is someone I truly like and respect. And that is the most important thing of all in this life, or any other life I might have lived. I am Ella, and this is my story, and I am very happy with how it turned out. I look at the gift card one last time before I close my desk drawer, and I realize I do not need it as a trophy anymore. I pick it up and walk down to the break room, and I leave it on the table for the next group of interns to use for a nice lunch. I do not need a reminder of where I was because I am so happy with where I am. I walk back to my office and I start working on the next big project for the Miller Group, and I do it with a heart that is light and a mind that is clear, and that is the best feeling in the entire world. The past is behind me and the future is bright, and I am exactly where I belong. Chicago is a city of big dreams, and I am living mine every single day, and that is a beautiful thing. I am finally at peace with everything, and that is the ultimate victory. I hope that anyone who finds themselves in a situation like mine remembers that they have more power than they think, and that they should never let anyone steal their light, because their light is what makes them who they are. I am glowing with the success of my own journey, and I am ready to help others find their way too, because that is what a real leader does, and that is who I have become. The story of Ella is a story of strength, and I am proud to be the one to tell it to the world. I am finished with the revenge, and I am focused on the future, and that is the best place to be. I am Ella, and I am doing just fine in the city of Chicago. I look out the window and see the lights of the city starting to twinkle like diamonds, and I know that I am one of those lights, and I am shining brighter than ever before. It is a wonderful life, and I am so glad I fought for it, and I am so glad I won. The end of this chapter is just the start of something even better, and I am ready for it all with open arms and a heart full of joy and a mind that is at rest. I am Ella, and I am home. I have learned that the most important thing is to never lose sight of who you are even when someone else is trying to rewrite your story for you. You are the author, and you have the power to change the ending whenever you want. I changed mine, and I am so glad I did. I am 34 and I am just getting started, and I know the best is yet to come. I feel the cool air from the window, and I breathe it in deep, and I feel alive, and I feel strong, and I feel ready. This is my city, and this is my life, and I am making the most of every single second of it. I am Ella, and I am a success story in the making, and I am not going to let anything stand in my way. The revenge was sweet, but the life I have now is even sweeter, and that is the truth. I am happy and I am whole, and I am exactly where I need to be, and that is a wonderful feeling to have at the end of a long day in the city of Chicago, Illinois. I am Ella, and I am proud of me. I am finally the person I was always meant to be, and that is the best revenge of all. I turn off my office lights, and I walk out into the night feeling like I could fly because I am no longer carrying the weight of someone else's lies, and that is a lightness I wish everyone could feel. I am Ella, and I am free. The city is waiting for me, and I am waiting for it, and together we are going to do great things. I am Ella, and this is my life, and I love it. I am strong, and I am capable, and I am going to keep going until I reach the very top, and this time I am going to do it on my own terms, and with my own name on everything I create. That is my promise to myself, and I am going to keep it. I am Ella, and I am unstoppable. The story is over, but the life is just beginning, and I am so excited to see where it goes next. I am Ella, and I am happy. I am Ella, and I am home. I am Ella, and I am exactly who I was always meant to be. The end.